'cause I'm lucky to be alive. It's only by the grace of God that I'll survive. Many times I should have been dead. I spit in the devil's eyes instead. And I'm lucky to be alive.
Guys, this evening we're just kind of out riding around, kicking about, and Dean Harris here, he's building a, what is it, 1963?
65.
65, well, it wasn't but 2 years off. Dean building a 1965 Chevrolet Chevy 2, or Nova. Chevy 2 as they were more commonly known as. And, you know, one part of this that makes this gasser movement, if you will, or gasser preservation, one part of this that really makes it so enjoyable is just this, the camaraderie and kind of going by each other's shops and seeing what's going on and passing off secrets or ideas or whatever the case may be. But Dean, really, you know, you're same age as me, 51.
Yes.
And, you know, the gassers, although we was walking around in diapers or maybe still hanging around, you know, with Dad there just shortly there before,
Yes,
but you know, the gassers are extremely intriguing to me. That's certainly a part of drag racing history, the most dominant part in my opinion. And so for you, Dean, really what draws you to the gasser? What do you like about it? What inspired you to build this car?
The first race I went to was at Greer. It was when Kenneth Phillips just did the Silver Streak. He built it, tore the rear end out, very first thing. I said, that's fine, I'm ready to,
Yeah.
I said, let me help you with it. So we started helping with it. The more I got into it, I was getting just so fired up, and I sat in that thing and I drove it from the pits to the staging land.
Yeah.
And then when I watched it leave, you got the straight drive, it's got to pull the wheels in the air. There's just nothing no more fun than that. If you're a car guy, I mean, you like cars, you like racing, this is the most fun. I've not been down the track in one yet, but I will be there first race.
Well, let me ask you this, Dean. So you kind of got drug in this by an old friend, Kenneth Phillips.
Ken, yes.
And so he maybe drug you out to the racetrack, or either you just interested in what he was doing, and
we just
lo and behold, he pushed you to work.
Yeah. And
well, you know, you're gonna have that in racing.
Yeah.
Certain.
Well, you got to have it's just a love for cars. I mean, if you don't have the love for cars and the passion to do it, you'll never do it. But if you have the drive, you can do it on a budget. You can do it. You don't have to have top
and we certainly want to, you know, get into that budget or the economy aspect of what the Southeast Gassers does offer. But first, you know, you and I are kind of from the same area. We're probably 20 miles apart from one another, and I didn't know you before this, and that's another good thing about the Gassers. It really, you know, introduces new people together. But my big question for you, and I don't know the answer to this, is had you ever been involved in drag racing before?
I have been involved in drag racing off and on for years.
Okay.
That is
Had
one
any
thing.
aspect,
That
yeah.
is one thing that I have helped several people. I mean, I've been to a lot of racetracks with several people, and we've won trophies. I dirt tracked for several years, just doing the car and the maintenance on the car and the setting up of the car. I love that part. Got trophies out everywhere. So I got to thinking, I said, you know, I'm getting a little older, and the thing of it is, I want to go try to get me a trophy for myself.
There you go. There you go.
I've never had one with my name, but I've helped somebody else get their names.
Well, is it kind of maybe safe to say that this really inspired you? This really interested you maybe more than the other forms of racing you've done, just because of, like you said, the exoticness of it, so to speak, the front end standing up on them, the mandatory stick shift transmissions, you know, the real driver's car.
Exactly, and that's where I feel if you can be a decent driver and force yourself to make yourself be able to drive the car,
Right.
there's a chance of winning. I don't care what you
Absolutely,
decide.
yes, absolutely, you know.
best of the best, if you can't shift the gears or if you don't get off the line just right with you, I mean,
Well,
you
I've
miss
always,
a gear.
I've always said everybody's beatable.
This, to me, it's just a class that you can always think that you can maybe pull off a win just because of
Well,
everybody's.
if you
at the same level.
persist, you're going to get there. But Dean, you know, you've kind of done this in a representative way that we really want to document and show other people here. One, you've targeted the sea gas category of the Southeast Gassers, which, you know, up until I think for the 2016 season, the sea gas category has kind of maybe not gotten the attention or the exposure it should have gotten.
Right.
But that sea gas category has really exploded over the build season.
Yes.
And that's one of the things here that I think that really your car is so representative of. Right. And that is the fact that you're not a professional car builder, certainly not saying that you don't have the ability, but it's not a trade that you practice every day.
Right.
So, but through this search, you have found really economical ways to do this and found bolt-on components from modern day companies that is accepted by the Southeast Gassers that really speed the process up and help eliminate the cost, or reduce the cost, but most importantly, eliminate a lot of the need for fabrication skills.
Exactly.
So in doing that, let's take a look at a few things here, Dean. I noticed that in looking in here, you've got a really neat bolt-on front suspension or frame here. Now, where did you find that at, Dean?
It is Subway,
Speedway
Speedway catalog.
We're all thinking Subway. We're hungry this evening.
And one thing I did was, we'll set this out of the way before we can set it. This is going to be tilt, but Mitch, you just grab hold and slide straight out.
Right.
Set it.
Okay.
We'll set it off for now, and that way you
Yeah,
can see that
that's a good view of it.
The kit comes, it bolts right back where the original did. It comes with all the rails. It comes down
So
with
what you're
shocks,
saying is the
everything.
original Chevy 2 front end bolted onto
It
these
bolted
cars.
on these right
Okay,
here.
okay, very good.
Your inner fenders for your car came up and they bolted in here, and that's where this bar comes
Yeah.
to.
So this is really any welded attachments are already done, I take it?
Yes, you don't weld anything.
No fabrication whatsoever.
The only welding I have done is just what I've done just
For
to
the
make my
front,
front
for the
end.
front end mount, yeah. But everything else bolts together and bolts on.
Bolts on.
Yeah. So that's really a big factor, you know, and doing the straight axle, and I'm assuming that straight axle front end or that straight axle
The
is
straight
from-
axle is the one thing that, you do have to weld on. That's to
Okay.
put, of course, you got the,
Right, you spring purchase. Well, but this is also a Speedway item. Did you get that from Speedway
comes
also?
with it.
Okay,
That
so
is
that's all part of the package.
It came with brakes and
Okay,
everything.
well,
The
that's
whole
good.
kit.
Now, I see a little something different here than what I would normally see on like your motor mounts. Is this,
That
I'm
came
assuming this
on
mount was mounted, but is this a mount that they recommended or a rubber bushing or isolator?
It is. That's the bushing they recommend,
Now,
and the
and
mount's a little bit
I do
different.
want to make one comment here. In some aspects, some people choose not to use a rubber-mounted engine.
Right.
And if you have your engine mounted on rubber, you better well make sure the transmission is, or vice versa.
Right.
If the motor's not mounted on rubber, you
Correct.
certainly do not want the transmission mounted on rubber.
Correct.
So I did want to take an opportunity just to make mention of that. One interesting thing you got here is something that the Southeast Gassers does accept. We had talked earlier about electrically driven water pumps or electric water pumps. This is an electrically driven water pump. This is an item that's produced and made by Moroso. Granted, it did come about in the later 60s, if not early 70s. However, electrically driven water pumps were on the scene back in the late 60s, the 67 eras and back. However, they were just adapted old heater fan motors or something like that, quite hideous, but they were, in fact, electrically driven water pumps. So to that end, we do accept that in the Southeast Gassers. Dean, the steering, all of this stuff was all part of this package that you bought.
This package comes to here.
Very good, very good.
Other than your steering, you have to buy the steering, which
Okay.
there's a
Right.
steering that you would
Well,
use, or,
Mention the price.
this
Just
whole,
say the front end.
this whole front end bolt-on kit is under $2,000. Like I said, and it comes with brakes, everything. Kenneth and I put it in in probably 2 hours, just
Really?
putting
2 hours.
it
Well,
together.
that's-
I mean, so
that
it's
gets a
not-
lot done in a
it's
short amount of
lot
time.
done. I mean, it's taken from,
Headers, I don't assume that you have any real experience in fabricating a set of
No,
tube
that's-
headers, so
that's
this
a
is
bought
just
set
a
of headers.
purchased set of fender well headers.
I think those were, around 500 bucks. But at the same time, you can still, I mean, you could.
Well, the points that I'm trying to get across, Dean, to everybody is the fact that you can do this, everything requires money, doesn't matter what you're doing. But there is ways to trim costs, but the greater example that I'm trying to present here is the fact that you do not have to be a mechanical whiz
Right.
to do this.
Oh, yeah.
You have pretty much built this car from shelf-bought products,
Exactly.
modern day shelf purchase products of things that are accepted within the Southeast Gassers. One thing I do see in here though, Dean, that we gotta discuss is this old red distributor cap here.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't have seen colored plastic or nylon caps of that sort back in the late 60s. So
Yeah,
we
we'll
do
have to-
require that be painted
Yeah.
black.
Right.
You can of course use a later model, but it has to look like an older one. Now, one other thing that I noticed on the other side, let's talk about your carburetor just a minute. This is a good representation of the carburetors that are accepted in the Southeast Gassers. This is just a basic Holley carburetor system in its natural color. It's not one of the new chromed or polished ones or nothing like that. This has had the choke horns milled off of it, which is fully acceptable, but most importantly, what you're seeing in this shot right here is the positioning of the carburetors. Modern day tonal rams and stuff like that all have the carburetors sitting sideways. That is just not accepted in the Southeast Gassers. Your intake manifolds may be manufactured for a sideways setting carburetor, but we require that that be changed and the carburetor set front to back as they originally were at that time period. Now, one other thing I notice over here is a master cylinder. Now, that master cylinder obviously is not representative of late 60s. This master cylinder is accepted in some cases, and that case being where it's maybe under the car, hidden in a way. So I think, Dean, the old haggling president we got, Quayne Stott, probably going to have something to say about that at some point in time, so you may want to be looking for another master cylinder along the way. If you don't mind, Dean, come on around. We don't want to take up all of your time, but I think you've got a car in a good stage here that really helps to get the point across to some of the people that's watching and that probably are having the same desire as you, wanting to build one of these cars.
All right.
So anyway, just here you just use, I reckon, mild steel tubing, something like that.
This is actually a kit out of a catalog.
No joke, is
It
it?
is
Really?
a Summit
Wow.
kit
From Summit.
from Summit.
Okay.
It comes pre-bent. You can actually get the bars,
Was there very much work on your part in here? I mean, did you have to, I'm guessing you had to do a little fitting right here, a little fish mouthing as it's referred to.
most of that was already just a minor.
Just little touches
minor
here
touches.
and there.
Not,
That goes a long way in getting one of these cars together, it really does. Yeah.
this is this right here, the roll bars, I would say is probably everybody's biggest fear. and
Absolutely,
biggest-
yeah.
It's something you want safe, and if you're building one yourself, it's better to get the kit. It's
I
already
fully
made.
agree. I mean, I had no idea this was a kit. I thought
It is
maybe
a
you
kit.
had this bent by something.
It
That's,
is a kit.
and I guess they make these for a lot of different body style cars or
They
something.
do.
Did you specify 60s Chevy too, or?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know if you specified like a car, or if you
No,
maybe
it
more
was-
specified an interior width or something. But
It,
specifying the car really makes
And it does I mean, like the hoop bar was a little longer because they were,
Oh, sure.
for
Well, they
different
didn't know exactly
applications.
where you was gonna mount
Yeah,
that, right?
but it's like, I mean, it's from a range of cars.
Well, on the frame rails here, I noticed these frame rails are spaced in quite deep. Was this once a
They were
race
spaced
car
in.
from some other time?
We've never finished it as a race car, full tub car, but it was going to be.
Okay, so this is a
And
project you started
It-
some other time?
It's been sitting for a couple of years.
Okay, and
And
then the gasser craze got a
when the
hold of it.
gasser
Here
was
we go.
there, here's a car that's
Yeah.
pretty much 3/4 built.
Well, I
So
noticed that you're not bringing your wheel tubs all the way over to the frame rails. I think maybe there's some
That's for
comment about that.
that's for the look. You
Right.
don't want that's to bring the 60s look back to it.
Yeah, 'cause back then, they didn't really have a narrowed frame rail, and
Right.
they didn't have a big wide wheel tub. They didn't need them, because they had tires hanging out from under the
Right.
fenders, didn't they?
And
Yeah.
the way I got my frame rails there, I needed somewhere to put my springs, so, and you don't want those
Right, right.
so close to your tires, so.
Well, very good, Dean. Dean, I'm impressed. You've done a great job. You're really not something that you would say that you're professional at, but quite honestly, I don't, this represents the work of a professional, even though it's, quite well put together, bolted together, whatnot. Congratulations. I look forward to seeing you out there,
Appreciate you.
and I know that the C-gas category of the Southeast Gassers is gonna benefit from you being there, so. But we certainly appreciate your time this evening, and
Not a problem. I thoroughly
we'll be back
enjoy-
again in a week or two, check on your progress.
Let's do it, because we're gonna keep on, and, that's our goal, is to make the first race.
You got it, brother. Well, thanks again, Dean.
All right, thank you, bud.
'Cause I'm lucky to be alive. It's only by the grace